ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وحبيبه بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح بالأمة فكشف الغمة اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك وأنعم على حبيبنا ورسولنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه وصار على نهجه إلى يوم القيامة اللهم اجعلنا منهم ومن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين. My dear respected brothers and sisters, we'll start by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for who He is. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us and to forgive us. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who hear or say this speech and follow the best of it. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. When we look at the state of the Muslims around the world, or even the state of humanity, a lot of us will find a lot of negativity, a lot of evil, a lot of bad things happening. People are getting killed. Natural disasters are happening left and right. And one of the biggest questions that sometimes we have, or our children have, or youth, or just Muslims and non-Muslims, is why do bad things happen? Why is there evil? We understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is compassionate. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all wise. So sometimes, for us, there's a problem between the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the fact that evil things happen. And sometimes others ask the question is, why do evil things, or why do bad things happen to good people? You see somebody who's good, a righteous brother, or even just a simple person, something bad happens to him. He's tested all the time. He's going through trials all the time. And sometimes that's how we feel about us. Which is, why is Allah doing this to me? I pray 5 times a day. I pay my zakah. I fast Ramadan. I'm a good person. Why is this happening to me? So inshallah ta'ala, over the next few minutes together, we're going to try to tackle that question. Why do bad things happen to good people? Which is the question of evilness and its existence on earth. Before we talk about some of the wisdoms of why evil happens, there's few things we have to understand. Number one is our role in this universe. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in one of the most famous verses in the Quran that we all know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُم مِّن رِزْقٍ وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَن يُطْعِمُونَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ ذُو الْقُوَّةِ الْمَتِينُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I did not create jinn and humans except to do ubudiyyah. Now oftentimes, and it's just a little bit of a problem with translation, oftentimes we translate ya'budun to worship, which is correct, but it's incomplete. I'll tell you why. Because the word ya'budun, if we look at its origin, it has this idea of abd, enslavement, slavery. That when I am worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my role is what? A slave to a master. Now, we have to be able to understand this question. We have to live as slaves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to understand anything. We are not the same level as Allah, wal-'iyadhu billah. We're not. We are slaves to Allah. There is a master, I am a slave. And this actually solves a lot of problems. Because as a slave, when your master does something, you don't say why. Unless you expect to understand everything, then you are not a slave anymore. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala precisely calls us ibad to remind us of where we stand to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the nature of this world is not, we're not supposed to understand everything because we're slaves. We don't even have the capacity to understand everything because our minds are limited. Our brains are limited. Our energies are limited. Our time is limited. We eat a little bit and we have to run to the bathroom. We are limited human beings. And we have to be able to understand this concept of enslavement before we're able to understand a lot of these bigger questions. If we step outside of the fact that I'm a slave, a lot of these questions are going to be a problem. Because atheists, actually the crux or the core of atheism is this concept of evilness. Why does evil exist? A lot of them have a hard time understanding it, so therefore they were like, if evil exists and God is okay with it, therefore God is evil, so I don't want to believe in God. That's their premise. But we say, as Muslims, as believers, is that evil exists. Allah is not evil, I am a slave. Allah might bless me to understand certain things, but that's because of His mercy. But then at other times, He might not let me understand, which is absolutely okay. Now, because we live in a Western society, this concept of slavery just doesn't settle well with some of us. Like, I don't want to think of myself as a slave. Because it's, again, slavery has this bad connotation. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in the Quran that ubudiyyah is the highest level of role a person can have. Yani, in the beginning of Surah Al-Isra, when our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he went through this beautiful journey of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, he went to a place that no one has ever been to. No human, no jinn, no creation has ever been through to Surah Al-Muntaha. And our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he was going with Jibreel alayhi salam tells him, "Oh Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I cannot go beyond this point. It's only you." Now, think about this honor. Think about the honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's a messenger, he's His beloved. But when Allah is describing the Prophet ﷺ to us, what does He say? سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا إلى المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى. He describes Him as what? My abd. Not my Rasul, not my Nabi, Abdi. Because this is the most honorable title someone can have. So, before we understand the idea of evilness, why do bad things happen to good people, or why do bad things happen to us, I have to be able to say, I am a slave. Allah is the master. He might make me understand certain things, He might not, but I'm a slave. And Allah can do whatever He wants. Whether I understand it or not, it's a separate discussion. I might not understand. We don't even understand everything that science claim to prove. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be slaves. And that's one point. Secondly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us, and this is also in other places of the Quran, Allah gives examples to tell you that even if you try to understand something, your perception is limited. One example. In Surah Al-Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala presents to us this interaction between Musa and Al-Khadr, where Al-Khadr is someone that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Musa, go, there's someone who knows more than you. Because you claim that you know everything. You think you're a prophet and you think you know everything. So he goes. So one of the stories, and if you read Surah Al-Kahf today, or you've already read it, stop at this for a little bit. Because Musa was walking with Al-Khadr, and then Al-Khadr goes and finds a little child and he kills him. And Musa was like, dude, what's wrong with you? You can't do that. You can't just kill a child. Let me ask you a question, brothers and sisters. Is killing evil? Some of you are nodding your head. Well, it depends. It depends. Not all killing is evil, actually. You know, if somebody murders 100 people, Is his killing evil? Right? But is his punishment evil? No, it's not. If he gets punished for what he did, nobody can call this evil. It's called justice. That you can't just go around and kill people. You got to get this point. So not a lot of things are not just black and white. Well, you have to ask the question, okay, why did Al-Khadr kill this little boy? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala later on explains to us. There's a reasoning for it. Even though our perception is like, this is so bad. This is so evil. But it might not actually. It might be a good thing. You know, even a lot of scholars, they mentioned that natural disasters have a lot of benefits. When a volcano erupts, you're like, oh my God, this just destroys things. It destroys homes. But this actually, it's good for the earth. There are certain minerals and certain materials that come out of the lava that benefits humanity. Now, not everybody knows this, but that's okay. Because who's in control? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if we try to understand something, we might not understand because our perception is limited. Last point, before I mention some of the wisdoms of why evil happens, why bad things happen. A lot of us, and even outside of the Muslim community, when we are frustrated about evil in this dunya, it's perhaps because we think this world is all of it, like this is it. Let's talk about atheism because by the way, a lot of this question was posted by a lot of those who deny the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they would ask these questions: why does evil exist? Why do bad things happen to good people? To them, the world, the dunya, is all that the human being lives. There is no afterlife. There is no akhirah, there is no jannah, there is no hellfire, there is none of this there. It's just this world. Now if a person, and subhanAllah, Allah protect us, say Ameen. Some of us Muslims, sometimes we act this way. We act like, man, I gotta take care of everything in this world. Like I gotta have everything. I gotta buy the house, I gotta buy the car, I gotta do this, I gotta travel, because we think that this world is everything. Now, when I'm living life thinking that this world is everything, I don't want anything to frustrate me. I want the best life. I want the biggest potential, the highest potential of life. Because I don't think there's anything after that. As a result, whenever something bad happens, I'm frustrated. Because it hinders my purpose. Because my purpose is to enjoy life to the fullest. YOLO, as people say, right? You'll only live once. Maybe some of the younger guys can relate. This concept of YOLO, where did it come from? It's us thinking that this is all that we got. We just got this dunya. And I gotta make the most out of it. So therefore, if something bad happens, I'm like, this is crazy. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be delayed. I don't want my shipment to take an extra day, because if I don't get my game today, I am missing out. While the reality of is that this is nothing. The reality of this dunya is that it's nothing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, and our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's not even equal to a wing of a fly. So before we understand the concept of evilness, let's understand the reality of this world. The reality of this world is not supposed to be perfect. It's not supposed to be painless. It's not supposed to be, I get everything I want. That's not what this dunya is for. And when people think that way, and Allah, by the way, talks about it in the Quran. وَقَالُوا مَا هِيَ إِلَّا حَيَاتُنَا الدُّنْيَا نَمُوتُ وَنَحْيَا وَلَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرُ. They say that this is just this world. That's all we got. We live and we die, and that's the end of it. And we're just destroyed by time. And this is what the mushrikeen used to believe. And I want us to, whenever we read verses in the Quran about disbelievers, to think about us believers. Am I living my life thinking that this is all of it? Or I just want to get the most I can out of it? And it's okay if you don't buy the best car, it's fine. If you don't ever buy a house, it's no big deal. Inshallah, there's houses waiting for us in Jannah. But understand the reality of this world, and then everything will make sense after that. Now, some of the wisdoms of evil. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he talks about this idea that pure evilness does not exist. According to our traditions, to our revelations, Quran and Sunnah, and the agreement of our scholars, pure evilness does not exist. It's not there. Every evil thing has a good side to it. Now, why is that? It's simple. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-wise, correct? Allah is all-wise, Allah al-Hakim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Hakim. When He lets something happen, He lets everything happen for a wisdom. Now that wisdom is there, true or not, it's there, it's absolutely there. Now, it is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reveal it to us or not reveal it to us. But it's always there. So when somebody doesn't get married to the girl of his dreams, it's okay. Maybe there's a point to it. Even though, man, I've saved up so much, I did everything for her, I did this and that, it's okay. There might be a greater wisdom. Now, some of us are lucky or are blessed to realize after 5 years, alhamdulillah, I didn't marry this girl. Or alhamdulillah, I didn't marry this boy. Or alhamdulillah, I didn't take this job. Or alhamdulillah, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. Everything that happens in this world happens by the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We might understand, we might not understand. But that's absolutely okay. Because it's always there. For us to demand to understand everything is us trying to say, oh Allah, I want the same knowledge that you have. That's a problem. That's a problem. Again, that's why I mentioned in the beginning this concept of being a slave. We have to remind ourselves every single day that I am a slave. I might not understand everything, but I know that Allah is all wise. The other point that is very important also is that existence of evil has nothing to do with existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's completely two separate discussions. We cannot put them together. It's not a conclusive thing. If there is evil, that means there's no God. It just doesn't make any sense, even logically speaking. Because there are certain things that happen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed them to happen. And that's okay. And even atheism, when they say evil exists, therefore God is evil, they actually, they don't deny the existence of God. They still say God is the reason for that. They don't say God is not there. So these two questions has to be separated. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in other places in the Quran that when bad things happen, it's done for the benefit of human beings. When somebody's tested with a really big test, that might break someone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us of the reward. And He says, إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. That patient people are rewarded without any quantity, like it's just unlimited reward. So when somebody is questioning themselves, say, oh Allah, why is this all happening to me? I've been sick for a very long time. I've been looking for a job for a very long time, but I'm not able to, right? I work 2 jobs. Person so-and-so has everything. I don't. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us there is a reward. There is a Jannah. There is something else waiting for us. That if that question comes to us, and I'll tell you, it comes to a lot of us. It's like, why is this happening? And we might not understand the reasoning until maybe years later. But understand that Allah is giving us an opportunity to get closer to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, was his life perfect? Absolutely not. Actually, a lot of the scholars, they said the Prophet ﷺ went through every stage a human being can go through. He was rich at one time of his life, and he was very poor at one time of his life. He was single at one time of his life, and he was married at one time of his life. Right? He was healthy at one time of his life, and then he was sick at one time of his life. He went through every single state anyone can go through. And that's why he was the perfect role model for us. And even he himself told us that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves some people, what does He do? He gives them tests. He gives them trials. Because Allah loves us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a chance to get closer to Him through that test. There's a few other things, inshallah, I'll mention in the second part of the khutbah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa la ilaha illa Allah al-Zalimin, wa la aqibatu al-muttaqin. We're going to ask the brothers, inshallah, to move up. I think there's 3 brothers standing in the back. So inshallah, we're almost done, just a couple more minutes, inshallah. Just step up a little bit and then you lift some more for the brothers in the back. So, one of the things also we learn is that everything around us that happens, that we portray as evil, are means for our own protection. How's that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He says, وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُم مِّنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we are going to make them taste the little difficulty or the little punishment or the little discomfort without the bigger one, so they can return to me. Which means is that we're gonna go through difficulties in this world. Evil is gonna happen to us or around us. But there is hellfire in the hereafter that Allah wants us to protect ourselves from. So He says, I am gonna make you taste a little bit of difficulty, so you are protected from the bigger difficulty in the hereafter. So in essence, evilness, bad things are for our own protection. Allah says, protect yourself from the hereafter. How many of us know somebody who repented or started practicing because of a test that they went through? I know few people. That they go through some really difficult times in their life, they're struggling, and they're away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the one thing that makes them return. The one thing that realize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one thing that realizes them that they have to pray 5 times a day. The one thing that they realize they have to put Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the center of their life because of a difficulty. And then they realize many years later that alhamdulillah that I went through this. Alhamdulillah that Allah tested me. And you look at the life of the companions. Abu Hurairah, one of the great scholars of hadith, he narrated the most hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. He was a homeless man who lived in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. Mus'ab ibn Umair was another great companion who used to be one of the richest young people in Mecca. They used to say that we used to smell Mus'ab from far, far away because of how good he used to smell. And he accepted Islam. And his mom completely deserts him. She kicks him. She was like, you have nothing to do with our family. The companions were crying years later when they saw his clothes. It was patched up. He was so poor. He was so poor because he just accepted Islam. And his family just disconnected with him. And Mus'ab ibn Umair, when he died, the Prophet says, this is a man of Jannah. And there's just so many examples that we can use. That when we look at evilness, when we look at bad things that happen to us or happens around us, there's always a blessing in disguise. Whether I see it or not, it's a separate discussion. But we should never doubt the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nor we should ever doubt the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nor should we ever doubt the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because something that happens to me. No, I use it to draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The last thing I promise, and I'll end with it inshallah, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. That corruption has appeared because of the deeds of the mankind. Our sins are the number one source of evil in this world. If you leave with nothing except this, it will be enough. Our sins, our mistakes, our shortcomings, our ego, our greed, our arrogance, our egotistic personalities. This is the number one reason for evilness in earth. Because the Messenger ﷺ, he says, وَالشَّرُّ لَيْسَ إِلَيْكَ, talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that evil will never come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but from us. Before I question Allah, before I question the existence of evil, I have to question my own evilness. Because perhaps I am the one causing that. Even if it's a small little scale. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and protect our hearts. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our shortcomings. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our evilness. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those of people of Jannah. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us patience so we can deal with life difficulty. Allahumma aghfir lana dhunubana wa israfana fi amrina wa yassir Allahumma ala al-haqq aqdamana wa ansurna ala al-qawmi al-kafirin. Allahumma tub alayna linatub وطهرنا من الخطايا والذنوب واستر يا رب لنا جميع العورات والعيوب. عباد الله رحمكم الله اتقوا الله. يقول المولى عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وأنعم على حبيبنا ورسولنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأقم الصلاة.